Hello everyone and welcome back to the F2 show by Inside F2. It's that time of year again where we wrongly predict how the 2025 Formula 2 season goes. Joining me for this one is a man who is so old he remembers what Nigel Mansell looked like before he could even grow a moustache. It's motorsport historian and F2 insider Aaron Harper. Aaron, how are you, you old man? Ready to get going again?
You're not wrong about the old man, but I'm feeling it. Do you know what? Incredibly, talking of Nigel Mansell, we go completely off topic immediately here. I could not believe that at the F175 event, he had a full beard. I didn't know he could grow hair on his chin. I'd only ever seen him with a moustache or nothing. It was just crazy.
Unbelievable. You learn something new every day in the world of motorsport, don't you? Alongside Aaron, we've got a guy who is so young, he genuinely believed Fernando Alonso was a rookie when he rejoined the sport in 2021. Motorsport journalist Martin Lloyd. Martin, a debut on the podcast. Welcome. Of course you didn't think that, by the way. You're far too good to think Fernando Alonso only started in 2021. But welcome to the F2 show.
Thank you very much for having me. I don't really know how to respond to that accusation, actually. I work for Feeder Series, so it's I'm going to try not to throw too many insults. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me. And looking forward to it.
No worries at all. We've got a bit of a feeder series versus Inside F2 going on here for the predictions. Before we start, we've just hit 245,000 subscribers, which we're incredibly grateful for. Inside F2 is a community of motorsport fans who love Formula 2. And the bigger Inside F2 gets, the more drivers we can have on, the more fun features we can do, and the more fun we can have. So please do give us a follow, subscribe if you aren't subscribed already, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. They're the things that I enjoy reading, the comments with you guys. Thank you for your support. Let's see if we can hit 250,000 subscribers for Australia before the season starts. That would be great. So if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Right, shall we crack on with some predictions then? We've taken some predictions from our Discord community. So thank you to those of you who have got involved in that. We're going to be mentioning those as we go through. Let's start with a new category for this year, strongest driver lineup for 2025. Let's go to the Discord. Zoe says high tech. Luke says ART are the strongest lineup for 2025. Omi says Dams. Jenny says Campos. Ash, Timo and Jesse all say high tech. Ellie May says Campos. Emily says high tech. I think high tech are the clear winners on Discord if we're going off that. Who do you think have got the strongest lineup for 2025, Aaron?
I've gone for high tech as well, with Luke Browning and Dino Boganovic. I have also noted down Pepe Marti and Arvid Lindblad because I think there's a lot of potential there. They're both Red Bull backed. The question mark is over Pepe Marti because he had a bit of an iffy season last year. Also, Arvid Lindblad, a rookie at F2 level. Also, Browning and Boganovic are relatively inexperienced at this level, but I think they've already shown they're both quick enough. They should both be at the front. I hope Pepe Marti can fulfill that sort of potential we know that's in there. He had such a good start last year in Bahrain, but it just kind of fell apart a little bit. Hopefully he can put that together this year, but I'm just giving Browning and Boganovic the edge.
You're going with the crowd on Discord. I like that. Martin, who do you think have the strongest lineup going into 2025?
So I have written down over there high tech, but I'm not going to say high tech because I think it's good to have a bit of difference. So as much as I agree with Aaron, I am going to say Campos.
Okay.
Just on high tech briefly, Browning said that the other day that he thinks high tech have got the strongest lineup, so they've got confidence. They think they've got it. But I'm going to say it's Campos. We've got Pepe Marti, we've got Arvid Lindblad. I think the really important point here, firstly, is the links that Red Bull has to Campos, and having both of their drivers in one team, it can only go well, as you saw with Isaac Hadjar last year. I think the other point is that Pepe Marti, his 2024 was very similar to Isaac Hadjar's 2023, finishing around 14th, 15th in the championship with a couple of podiums dotted in there for Marti. I think he could really kick on this year. He obviously got his only win of the season at Abu Dhabi, and I think partnered with Lindblad, who He's showed his class in Formula 3, a bit inconsistent at times, but he's clearly very fast. I think Campos could definitely challenge High-Tech in terms of the best lineup.
I think Marty will be looking to continue that momentum into 2025, won't he? So, it'd be really interesting to see how Campos do this year. So Aaron's gone High-Tech, Martin has gone Campos. I think Dams have the strongest lineup in 2025. Two experienced drivers who know how to win races. I think other candidates like High-Tech and Campos that you guys have mentioned have good lineups. But right now, going into 2025, I do think Dams, Jack Crawford, obviously an outside shot at the title in 2024. I think he'll be a championship contender this year. Kushmani has obviously had 2 good years in Formula 2. He was part of the Invicta squad that won the championship last year. Campos and High-Tech, obviously some rookies in there. And I think the rookies will get better as the season goes on. But I think right now, I think Dams have the strongest lineup for me. I spoke to Jack Crawford a few days ago. You can check that interview out on the Inside F2 YouTube channel. He also agreed that he thinks Dams have the strongest lineup this year. So, I think they'll do very well this year. Let's wait and see. Okay, moving on then. Next is first new winner. So this is not a new category. This is one we did last year. I guess the first new winner means that this excludes people who have won in the series before. So that excludes Roman Stanek, Pepe Marti, Richard Verschoor, Jack Crawford, Kushmani, Victor Martins and Josh Dirksen. Let's see what Discord is saying. Omi says Arvid Lindblad. Luke says Luke Browning. Jenny Craig says Arvid Lindblad. Nessie says Arvid Lindblad. Ash says Arvid Lindblad. I think we're getting a bit of a theme here. Jenny says Luke Browning. Jesse says Gabriele Mini. So there you go. There's a different answer there. Zoe says Dino Beganovic. Ellie May says Luke Browning. Emily says Arvid Lindblad. I think it's fair to say Arvid Lindblad is the favourite for this one on Discord, closely followed by Luke Browning. Martin, who have you gone for as your first new winner in 2025?
So there was one there that was picked up on, and that was Gabriele Mini. Now, I'm not saying that Prema are going to fully complete a revival this season. They might do. But I think it's going to be a couple of years before they get back to the position that we expect them to be in. But I think Gabriele Mini could have a shout at this. I think, of course, you've got the guys like Lindblad, the guys like Fornaroli, who wasn't mentioned at all in there, who are clearly quick drivers. But I think what Prema showed last year is that if they are at the front of the grid, they can do really well. They won quite a few sprint races, Antonelli at Silverstone, Ollie Behrman in Austria, and I think another one as well. And I think that if Gabriele Mini gets on the reverse grid pole or around the top of there and can get his way towards the front, towards the start of the sprint race, I think he could run away with it, because Prema have shown, even last year when they were struggling, they know how to lead a race. So I'm going with Gabriele Mini for that one.
Love that. Aaron, who have you gone for as first new winner?
If there's so many all going in one direction, we can't all be wrong, can we? I've gone with Arvid Lindblad. I just think that raw speed will get him to the front. We mentioned earlier the lack of consistency at times, but I mean that's part and parcel of Formula 2 and Formula 3. There is a slight lack of consistency within the drivers, and they're sort of honing that out of their game. And I just think Lindblad's pure speed, especially around Melbourne, which is a very specific sort of track, I think he's going to do quite well there. So we could see him winning the sprint race on the Saturday, which it might even be Friday in the UK when that happens. So who even knows? Time zones, everybody.
Love it. I have also gone, Martin, for Gabriele Mini for our first winner of 2025. Although now you've said that, I think, maybe I should mix it up a bit. But I do think Gabriele Mini, it will be the first new winner of 2025. I think Prema has shown some really good pace in pre-season. I'm expecting Prema to return to the front in 2025 and be winning races regularly and competing for the championship. And I really rate Gabriele Mini as well. I think, he had a really good season in Formula 3 last year. I think he probably deserved to win the championship. He obviously ran Leo Fornaroli very close, and obviously we saw that dramatic end to the Formula 3 season in 2024. So I have gone for the little Italian to be the first new winner in 2025. If I'm going to throw something out there just to be different, as bearing in mind Martin has said that, I'm going to go for Ollie Gerfer. I think Australia, obviously reversing the top 10 in Australia. I think Ollie Gerfer could be around 9th, 10th in qualifying, so he might end up starting the sprint race on Saturday on pole and maybe winning the sprint race. So, there you go. There's something a little bit different to you, Martin, just to mix it up a little bit. Moving on then, one to watch. Emily says Alex Dunn is one to watch in 2025. Ellie May says Dino Beganovic. Ash says Ollie Gerfer. Omi says Gabriele Mini. Luke says Gabriele Mini as well. Jenny says Luke Browning. Zoe says Victor Martins. Jesse says Arvid Lindblad. Aaron Harper, who is your one to watch in 2025?
Gabriele Mini. He's the driver who's got former Formula 2 commentator Alex Jakes very excited ahead of the 2025 season. So AJ knows his stuff, so I'm going to just follow him. He's our North Star. He can't be wrong. So, I'm going to keep an eye on Gabriele Mini. He was, like you say, he was very unfortunate not to win the F3 title last year. The speed is clearly there. He knows how to put a championship together. Didn't quite get it over the line, but that can happen when you're dealing in such fine margins. I just think, with Prema, they'll be bouncing back from a difficult season in 2024, looking to get themselves back on track and winning races on a regular basis. He's going to be their number one guy, I think, in terms of performance. So I'd like to see Sebastian Montoya really push him, but I think Gabriele Mini just has that extra sort of step that he can reach to.
You've been watching the F2 show, Aaron, haven't you? You watched our special edition with Alex Brundle at the end of Alex Jakes at the end of last season, and you know that he did indeed pick Gabriele Mini to win the championship in 2025. Love that. And by the way, that video is on our YouTube channel. It's available for you to watch on YouTube, listen to on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and it is a really interesting episode with the former Formula 2 commentator. Martin, who is your one to watch in 2025?
So I've gone with a returning driver. I've gone with Ritomo Miata. Now, last year maybe wasn't the year that we expected from Ritomo. He had a few mechanical issues and a clear, he didn't have the pace at a lot of the rounds that teammate Zay Maloney had at Rodin. But he's clearly got a lot of raw speed. In 2023, he won the Super Formula Championship. He beat Liam Lawson. He won the Super GT Championship. Last year wasn't what he would have wanted, but he's moved to ART. He's still got that really experienced teammate to learn from in Victor Martins, and I really expect him this year with ART, I'm sure, building back towards the front as well. I can't really look past him in terms of one to watch. He's had the winter off. He's not got a European Le Mans Series program going this year. Toyota really appear to be pushing him towards Formula One with that Haas test that he's had recently. And I think all that support, all that knowledge that he's getting, the extra time from not doing the endurance racing, I think that Ritomo could really push on this year. And I really hope he does, because he's clearly got a lot of pace, and I hope he succeeds this year as one to watch in F2.
Martin, I totally agree with you. I think Ritomo Miata is going to be a different driver this year. And I was speaking to that about that to Chris McCarthy and Tom Bellingham on our season preview podcast, which is also out now for you guys to go and watch. But we all agreed that Ritomo Miata could be a completely different driver to the driver we saw at Rodin last year. And I've even got him down as a championship contender. So, that's a really interesting shout, and I completely agree with you on that one. I haven't gone for that as an answer, though. My one to watch in 2025 is Sebastian Montoya. I think he'll be better in Formula 2 than a lot of people are expecting. I think he'll surprise a few people this season. I think he's going to adapt to the car quickly. I think Prema, as I've already mentioned, are going to be good enough to win races this season. And I do think that Sebastian Montoya, I think we'll see him win a couple of sprint races this year. I do. I think he's a good driver. We've seen him obviously at Campos in Formula 2 and in Formula 3, High-Tech in Formula 3. And he hasn't necessarily lived up to his potential so far, but we know from Italian F4, there's a good driver in there, and I think we just haven't quite seen him maximise his potential yet. So I've gone for Sebastian Montoya as my one to watch in 2025. And we actually spoke to Sebastian Montoya ahead of the 2025 season as well. It was a really interesting chat. We spoke about pizza, parents, and Prema, the 3 Ps. So go and check that out on our YouTube channel. Another plug, sorry, lots of plugging today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. I want to know what you think about Sebastian Montoya. Okay, next up we have team champions. Let's go to the Discord again. We've got Nessie who says Campos are going to be team champions in 2025. Ash says Campos. Oh no, here we go again. We've got a theme already, haven't we? Timo says High Tech. Jesse says High Tech. Jenny says Campos. Ellie Mae says High Tech. Emily says Campos. Zoe says MP Motorsport, which is a little bit different. Jenny Craig says Campos. Luke John says Prema. Interesting shout, Luke. And Omi says Campos as well. I'm going to kick this one off, chaps, if you don't mind. I have also I've gone for ART as my team's champions in 2025. Hear me out, right? On the face of it,
Victor Martins take some hearing.
He's going to take some hearing, exactly that. I know on the face of it, Victor Martins obviously didn't have a great season last year. Ritomo Miata, one of a few drivers not to stand on the podium last year. We had 18 different winners, 19 drivers on the podium, and Ritomo Miata wasn't one of those drivers. But one bad season does not mean they are bad drivers. As Martin's already alluded to, Ritomo Miata is the Super Formula champion. He has won almost everything he's driven in his career. He is not a bad driver, even though he had a bad season last season. I think ART are going to be competitive this year. I think Ritomo, he looked good in pre-season testing, as did Victor Martins, by the way. I think both of them are going to be winning races this year. Victor Martins, I mean, it was only 2023, only not last season before. He qualified every single race in the top three, bar 3 races. That is an unbelievable qualifying record. The ART was not as good as it was in 2023, last season in 2024. I think, Victor Martins, Ritomo Miata, both good drivers. And if ART can provide them with the car to win races, I think they will be teams champions in 2025. Yeah, Martin, your thoughts on that? You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I don't disagree that ART are coming back, but I think Prema could be an outside contender, but I just think ART have got so much to learn from last year. I'm definitely surprised by it, but it's definitely not unforeseeable given the history of the team. They were only the team champions a year or so ago, so I think especially with having 2 solid drivers there, it's not impossible. For me, I have gone with Discord on this one. I've gone with Campos. I can't really look past them. As I mentioned earlier, the Red Bull tie-up seems to have really helped Campos to grow as a team. They had one of the best ever Formula 2 seasons last season. And I think with the lineup that they've got of Lindblad and Marty that I selected earlier, as I say, Pepe, I really expect to kick on this year, considering that last year was a difficult one for him, but you saw so many flashes of potential and light that he couldn't just string together into a consistent season. But I think this year, especially partnered by Lindblad, who we've seen in Formula 3 is an unbelievably quick driver. I can't really look past him as team champions. The other one I was considering that's not been really spoken about is Invicta, but I think I'll come to that later because I think they're in with a real shout. But I think it'll be Campos this season.
Okie dokie. Aaron, who do you think are going to be teams champions in 2025?
Well, I heartily declare all of you wrong because I've gone with Dams.
Okay.
So I think the combination of Jack Crawford and Kush Miney has the right blend of speed and experience to get that team to the front on a regular basis. They showed they could get there and they had an understanding of this new Formula 2 machine to get it operating on a quick get it operating quickly and on a consistent basis. We saw other teams sort of peak and trough through the season, but there were 3 teams that were really generally at the front. That was Invicta, that was Campos, and it was Dams. So I think that the Campos lineup has a few question marks over it in terms of the experience. The speed is definitely there. The same with the high-tech boys. Prema, ART could potentially make a comeback in terms of their form, but I think Dams are just sort of in that happy place. They're going to go a little bit under the radar. People aren't going to be expecting them to perhaps be as sharp as they are, but they're a well-oiled machine, and they will surprise everybody and prove me right. But it's an early bold prediction there for you.
No, to be fair, I don't think it's that bold because you look at Jack Crawford's performances last season, and he was up there as consistently as anybody was. I think obviously JM didn't perform quite as well as he would have hoped, but you saw with what Dino was able to do at the end of the season that they've got a really strong understanding of that car. So I don't think that's as far fetched as some people might think.
I agree. I think it's a very good prediction, to be fair, Aaron. And if Kushmani wins the team's championship 2 years in a row without winning the drivers' championship, I think he'll be fuming, won't he? So has the driver done that before? Won the team's championship 2 years in a row? We'll have to check that out, won't we? And have a look at that for next time we're on the podcast. Okay, drivers' champion is the big one. Who's going to win the 2025 Formula 2 championship? Let's head to Discord. Omi says Arvid Lindblad. Nessie says Luke Browning. Luke says Luke Browning. Timo says Arvid Lindblad. Ash says Jack Crawford. He agrees with you, Aaron, with your previous prediction. Jenny says Arvid Lindblad. Jesse says Gabriele Mini. Ellie May says Victor Martins. Emily says either Victor Martins or Arvid Lindblad. Jenny Craig says Victor Martins or Richard Verschoor. That's an interesting shout. And Zoe says Victor Martins as well. And we got a few special guests who are predicting as well. As you said earlier on in the podcast, Aaron, Alex Jakes, former Formula 2 commentator, says Gabriele Mini. Alex Brundle says Gabriele Mini. Tom Bellingham from P1 says Gabriele Mini. Chris McCarthy, the new Formula 2 commentator, says Arvid Lindblad. Who is going to be the 2025 Formula 2 champion, Martin?
So I'm going to absolve myself of any responsibility for this prediction by saying I think it's an incredibly open championship, as it always is in Formula 2, to be honest.
He's got his disclaimer in there early. He said it's an open championship.
I'm going to have this tag for a year, so I might as well start off with it. I think I'm going to go with Lindblad. I've spent all day mulling over whether I'm going to say Lindblad or Mini or Fornaroli. But I think I'm going to say Lindblad for this one. I think there's a lot of experienced drivers who could do it, but there's just question marks over teams. You look at ART. Victor Martins has obviously got the pace in terms of himself. It's whether they can bring themselves up there. Luke Browning, Dino Beganovic obviously got the pace, but his two rookies in a team, is that going to work? Can one not learn off the other quickly enough? I'm not sure. I think with Lindblad, they've got the right lineup, with Pepe alongside him, with the experienced driver to learn from, and also being in that Red Bull setup. I'm sure Arvid could go and ask Isaac Hadjar for a few tips on that 2024 F2 car if he needed to, although I think he'll be just fine. I think Arvid, he's got the pace, he's got the experienced driver to learn from. I think we might see what we saw from Gabriel Bortoleto last season, in terms of he always had the pace, but the start of the year was just a little bit inconsistent with getting to grips with the series, getting to grips with the car, and the different things you have to do compared to Formula 3. But I think as the season goes on, Arvid is going to prove his speed, is going to prove his worth in that team, and I can't look past him after a day of deliberation.
Interesting you say Fornaroli as well. He's not a name we've mentioned so far.
Again, Invicta seem to be really going under the radar considering they're champions, but I don't think they should be there. Fornaroli will be in with a shout if purely because of his consistency, but I think it's got to be Lindblad, just given all of those factors that are put together that not quite anyone else has, I don't think.
Arvid Lindblad will become the youngest winner in Formula 2 history if he wins a race in the first 6 rounds of the season. So he's got until Barcelona to win a race to become the youngest winner in Formula 2 history and beat Théo Pourchaire's record. Who do you think is going to be the 2025 Formula 2 champion, Aaron?
So put me in with all the experts of Alex Jakes, Alex Brundle and Tom Bellingham, because I've also gone for Gabriele Mini. And I mentioned before we recorded that one of my answers has brackets next to it. This is that answer.
You did.
And word for word, it reads, driver champion, Mini, brackets, Ate Canter. I have a feeling.
Oh, wow, okay.
I have a feeling he's going to run away with this. I think if he gets a good early start, gets a couple of wins under his belt, he will take this title this championship by the scruff of the neck, and no one will have a sniff of it. But
I'm not gonna,
he won't end up in a Formula 1 team next season. So
his Alpine Junior, although there's probably no room at the inn at Alpine, is there, with Franco Colapinto on a 25-year deal or whatever it is. So it's that's an interesting one.
I mean, there'll be space soon because Jack Doohan's on a 1-week deal. So
that's true. Exactly that.
Poor Jack Doohan.
Aaron, I thought the brackets were going to be or X, Y, and Z drivers. I didn't realise you were going to say at a counter. That's unbelievable.
It's a very specific.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to bring my favourite Formula 2 stats back out to the side this one. Aaron, you might remember it from last year. The Formula 2 Championship has never been won by someone with the same race number twice. So when Charles Leclerc won the championship in 2017, he was number 1. George Russell was number 8 when he won the championship in 2018. Nick De Vries 4 in 2019. Mick Schumacher 20. Oscar Piastri 2. Felipe Drugovich number 11. Teo Porcher number 5. And Gabriel Bortoleto number 10. So on that basis, that rules out this year's number 1, Leo Fornaroli. Dino Beganovic number 8. Lindblad 4. Dirksen 20. Stanek 2. Crawford 11. Gerfer 5. And Gabriele Mini 10. Which means, yes, I have gone crazy. I'm going to go for this year's number 14, Victor Martins, purely because out of the drivers that I think are going to be contenders, he's the only one whose race number hasn't won the championship before. So purely based on race numbers, which is utterly ridiculous, I have gone for Victor Martins. How's that for some rationale, Martin?
I think this is the kind of highbrow analysis that Inside F2 is famous for.
It absolutely is. You're right. Utter nonsense, isn't it?
Well, you won't find any of that at Feeder Series, but as long as I think Victor Martins maybe I think he's definitely going to be a contender. As I said earlier, he's got the pace. I'm not quite sure on your rationale, to be totally honest with you. But
there's basis precedent for it.
Well, it's not out of character. It's for you. I have to expect it, but I think the rationale is maybe a bit strange, even if there is precedent for it. But I think the driver, it may not be too wide of the mark if ART can get going, and that's a big if.
My prediction is based on pure statistics, Martin. We're not like those boring lot over at Feeder Series, are we, Aaron? So
I'm just going to say a little bit of Brundle bingo here. Take a sensible tablet.
Love it. Okay. And finally, let's go a little bit crazy for our last one of the podcast. One bold prediction for 2025. Let's head to Discord. Zoe says we'll see a feature race with 10 or less finishers in 2025. I like that as a bold prediction. Emily says we're going to have a photo finish this year. I like that. Ellie May says no driver changes in the entirety of 2025. Jesse says Abby Pullin to appear in the final race of the season. Jenny says Arvid Lindblad will drive for Racing Bulls after the summer break, so he won't finish the season in Formula 2. Timo says a mid-season driver change at Prema. Nessie says Miata in the top 3 of the standings, agreeing with Martin and I on that one. Omi says a drag race to the line for the win at some point this season. Luke says Arvid Lindblad to replace Isaac Hadjar in Formula 1 mid-season, so he's agreeing with one of the earlier suggestions. And finally, Jenny says at least 8 driver changes throughout the season. Some real interesting ones in there. Aaron, what's your bold prediction for the 2025 Formula 2 season?
So part of mine has already been mentioned in that Isaac Hadjar will be replaced by Arvid Lindblad at some point in Formula 1. I just feel like Isaac's... I just have this feeling that he's going to struggle. And we know how ruthless the Red Bull setup is with its young drivers and just ditching them. I think he probably deserves time. I don't think he will get it. And I think Lindblad, they will promote him by the, sort of towards the end of the season. But my bold prediction is that at least 2 Formula 2 drivers drive in a Formula 1 race this season. Now, here's the rationale. If you thought Fraser's car numbers statistics was out there, we're going to biology, everybody. Now, I've talked about Red Bull and how they just, scythe through young drivers like there's no tomorrow. Let's have a look at the Williams pairing. What do Albon and Sainz have in common?
They have
Medical
no appendix.
history. They don't have an appendix. One of them is due to have some sort of medical issue at some point this season, if not both, given their track record. And Luke Browning is, I believe, a Williams-backed driver. So
Yes.
Luke Browning in a Formula One seat. There you go. 2 drivers from the Formula 2 grid, at a minimum, to drive in a Formula One Grand Prix this season.
Interesting. Can I say, Aaron, that I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to agree but disagree with you on one of those. I think if Arvid Lindblad is going to step into a Formula One seat this season, I don't think it will happen personally, but I think if he does, I think he'll replace Yuki Tsunoda. I think Yuki Tsunoda is more likely to be replaced than Isaac Hadjar. I do think they'll give Isaac Hadjar the year. I think if Yuki's not going to be there in 2026 and they want to put Arvid Lindblad in the car for the last few rounds of the season, I think he'll replace Tsunoda if that is to happen. But I do think for me, I do think they'll give Arvid Lindblad the whole Formula 2 season, the same as Ferrari or Haas gave Ollie Behrman the whole Formula 2 season as well. Because I was saying mid-season last year, Aaron, you'll know that I was saying that I don't think Ollie Behrman will finish the season, and he did end up finishing the season. So,
just to come back on that, is in your prediction there, is Lindblad replacing Tsunoda because Tsunoda's replacing Lawson at Red Bull because Lawson's been binned off?
No. I think Lawson will survive the season. But
hang on. Verstappen's walked out, hasn't he?
Imagine you just stick Lindblad in the Red Bull seat, just straight in the Red Bull seat. Martin, what is your bold prediction in Formula 2 for 2025?
I might disappoint with this one. I don't think it's quite as bold or as far fetched as some of the other stuff we've had.
What are you on about? This has all been very, very sensible stuff.
Sorry, yes, totally sensible. I'm so sorry. I think Roman Stanek is going to be a much better driver than people are anticipating this season.
Okay.
I think he's with the reigning champions who've proven that they have an incredible understanding of the new car. He has struggled at Trident, granted, and I think Richard Verschoor got incredible amounts out of that car last year, considering the position he would have been in the championship without disqualifications and the mechanical failure in Monaco. I think there's no doubt that Stanek had a disappointing year last year. However, we've seen in F3 that Stanek is a good driver. He finished 5th, I believe, in F3 in his final season there with Trident, who are a top team there. And I think with a team that can compete a bit more than Trident can, no disrespect to Trident, I think that Roman could, I'm not saying he's going to win the championship, but I think people are writing him off really early. And Invicta are a really strong team. The other element to that is something that you can read now on feederseries.net, actually, is an interview I did with, I'm going to plug because you've been plugging the whole time.
Yeah, go for it.
An interview I've done with Invicta's new team principal, James Robinson. And he said that he's been really impressed with Roman in pre-season testing, and they signed him because they know that the speed he has. So they've got belief in him. He's told us he wants to compete for the title. I think that might be a little bit too far, but I think Roman Stanek's going to impress people more than is expected this season.
It's an interesting prediction. Do you think he'll win races this year, Martin?
I think he'll win races. I think even if sprint races, I think he might jump in with a feature as well. But Invicta have shown last season that their real characteristic is consistency, whether that's with Kushmani in terms of picking up solid points and enough to back up Gabriel, or with Gabriel just finishing in the top 4, top 5 every race and driving away from the other guys. I think that Stanek could be one to watch, and I don't think a race win is out of the question, especially considering that was what he did. That was what he did in his one good weekend last season in Australia.
And that win, obviously, it was at Melbourne last year, and we're starting the season in Melbourne. So you never know, he might kick off the season with a very good result. Let's wait and see. My bold prediction for the 2025 Formula 2 season is that we will have a Formula 2 graduate driving for Cadillac in Formula 1 in 2026. I'm not going to name a driver. I'm going to leave that open. But I think we will have a Formula 2 driver driving for Cadillac in Formula 1 in 2026. I'm really interested to see what direction Cadillac go in terms of their driver lineup. I do think they'll have an experienced driver in there, whether that be Sergio Perez or Valtteri Bottas, for example. There's been a lot of talk about Colton Herta potentially coming across Obviously being in that second Cadillac seat. I was speaking to Jack Crawford yesterday. What's to say that a US Formula 2 champion, for example, couldn't go and have that Cadillac seat? I know he's got the ties to Aston Martin, but I said I wasn't going to say any names. Now I've just said a name, haven't I? But I do think, yeah, exactly. I can't go back. I do think a Formula 2 graduate will be driving for Cadillac in Formula 1 in 2026. So that is my bold prediction.
I do agree with that. I think.
Yep.
I think that there is a real potential for that for a few reasons. I think obviously you look at Jack being American and the obvious PR potential that he's got there, as well as much more importantly being a very, very fast driver. But I think also in Formula 1 this season, you've seen a lot more trust being placed in rookies. And I think with the new team coming into the sport, I think they're likely to buy into that. I also think there's a bit of an underrated factor in terms of talking about Cadillac's drivers. And I think we've heard a lot in the last few years, and we've seen it with Franco Colapinto. We heard, I think, Oscar Piastri potentially going to Williams a couple of years ago. Teams are really thinking about, can we loan out a driver to another team to develop, like how Red Bull do with Racing Bulls? I really wouldn't be surprised if Isaac Hadjar has a really good season this year, if Tsunoda's going to stay at RB, which is, we don't know, but if he is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Red Bull place Lindblad at Cadillac for the 2026 season, or Williams stick Browning there because they've got Albon and Sainz, or even if Dino has a really good season, Ferrari putting Bogdanovich there. I really don't think that's out of the question, and I think that would be really good for Cadillac as well, to get that experience of developing a young driver, because I'm sure that they're going to be looking to have some kind of program at their own in the years to come. So I think that's definitely definitely could happen.
It's most likely to be Bogdanovich, I think, because Cadillac have got Ferrari power units, haven't they? So
absolutely,
probably Bogdanovich, but the others aren't out of the question, you know. And we've seen drivers like Bortoletto was a McLaren junior. He's broken his tyres and gone to Sauber. So, which will by that point be Audi, of course. Yep. So, two big car brands coming into Formula 1 next season.
So many storylines to keep on track keep on top of this year and to watch unfold. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how they develop. There you have it then. Those are Aaron and Martin's predictions. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. I want to hear all of your predictions for all of those different topics that we've been talking about. Let us know in the comments. Lots more content coming your way in 2025 on Inside F2 as well. We have driver interviews with Jack Crawford, Sebastian Montoya and Joshua Dirksen out now for you to watch on YouTube or to listen to on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I know I mentioned them a few times in this podcast. We've also got our pre-season podcast, or season preview podcast, I should say, with the new Formula 2 commentator Chris McCarthy and Tom Bellingham from P1, which is out now for you to watch again on our YouTube channel or listen to on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You know what to do. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our content on Inside F2 in 2025. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2,